In today's tutorial, I will teach you how to do the touch-up procedure. Last time we did microblading with shading, and in today's tutorial, I will show you what exactly I do on touch-up when it comes to microblading with shading procedure. And as always, welcome to Mondays Learn with Beauty Slash, where every Monday I post new tutorials about microblading, shading, and hair strokes with machine procedures. And if you're interested in more information, I always post new content on my Instagram, so we can connect there. And let's get back to the video. So this is the heel result. As you can see, it is about 1.5 months after the first procedure. And let me show you the before. So this is the before brows, and this is the after procedure brows. They are more red and brighter in color. This was our first procedure. And look how pretty it looks after it has been healed. They look so natural and the color has been cooled down. So briefly, what we did on our first procedure is we put the microblading at the front and we put the shading with microblading at the tail. We did microblading first and then we put the shading at the bottom. But now I realized, judging by the healed result, that I should have put the shading at the bottom slightly darker, or similar to the color of my microblading. So actually my microblading, I have used quite darker color, but for the shading I had used Tina Davis brown, medium brown, and I used that same color for my bottom of the brow. By the way, if you're using Tina Davis colors, you can use my discount code when you are purchasing her products. I believe it is beauty/15, or you can check out the link in the description under this video. All this I will explain along the way, so let's start with cleaning, of course, our clients' brows. The second step usually I do is I shave off unnecessary hairs before I put the numbing cream. Now after I put the numbing cream, we wait about 20 minutes, and after that I usually, if you see everything is gone after the first procedure, go ahead and map the brows one more time. And actually it's a good practice to double check whether the brows are even or not, so I still do use the thread to map a little bit my brows. Now, once she waited for the numbing cream, once we map the brows after the numbing cream, it's time for me to fill in the missing spots. So of course I will start with the head of the brow, and I notice on one side the microblading is still fine, so I will not touch one side. I will only fill the side which I feel there are missing strokes. And keep in mind, once you do the microblading one more time on the same strokes, they do become thicker and darker, so you have to be really careful. You probably also notice I have 3 colors in my ring. So one color is for the front, which is lighter. I use BR1 from the few brows, and then for the tail I use darker color BR2. And then to emphasize even further detail of the brow, in some spots I will use BR3. A good practice will be also to clean your blade once in a while to make sure it's sharp and clean again. And for the tail, right now I'm using BR3 just because she already has the color there, but I want to really create this depth in the brow. So I will use the darkest color, and I will put these strokes quite further apart from each other. This way they will have a kind of 6D effect after the healing. So just to let you know, specifically in this area there was no strokes that are missing, but I just wanted to emphasize and create the depth. That's why I put just additional strokes over the previous strokes and used the darkest color. But of course at the bottom I have these missing spots, and I'm just using the regular BR2 for the regular strokes. Now for the bottom line, I will use the shading, and I am using Bella machine. You can find it on my website. I use in this case dark brown because I want to create a darker bottom line and more depth in the brow. Once you finish with the shading and microblading, you just have to erase everything with the dry tissue, not with the wet tissue, because you don't want to dilute any pigment inside the cut of the microblading. And then with your ink, you wrap additional color inside the cut and wait for the ink to soak. After the ink has been soaked, only after that you can use the wet tissue to clean everything. And similar I will do on the other side, emphasizing just some parts, some strokes of the brow and filling in the missing strokes. If you have more missing spots, just go ahead and microblade all over the brow from the front till the end. That is totally fine. And as I mentioned before, keep in mind if the strokes are there already, doing the microblading on top of them will make them darker and in some cases even thicker. So now it's time for me to erase the ink from the first eyebrow with the wet tissue, and I will put the secondary numbing cream to numb the brow, and after that I will fill in the strokes that I did on my first path. So in this case I start with the bottom shading, and after that I will put the microblading. Now for the blade, I'm using Beauty Slash NanoFlow needles. They are extremely thin and they are so sharp, and they really do the cuts clean and nice. And why I really like them is because of the healed result. The healed result looks really crisp. So you probably notice when using the other needles, they are doing the cuts with a bit thicker manner and they actually mess up the skin, and if you zoom in you will see like a blurry stroke. That is because of the quality of the needle, and that's why your healed result look blurry. So if you're using a good quality needles, you will have totally different results. So to sum up, this is my second time I'm coming to this eyebrow, so I'm finishing this as it has been my second path. The same I will do on this side, and that's basically it. And while I'm doing these cuts, you can probably not notice, but I can tell you I am cutting one cut 2 times, just making sure I'm really sliding the pigment through each cut. This will have much better retention. And again, if you're using the thicker needles, this is more risky because you might end up with the lines being too thick. But with NanoFlow needles, you can do this easily. And lastly, after I finish the brows, I will still put the numbing cream just for taking the nice cooled pictures. And that's it. So for the touch up it's about 1 hour, and for my previous procedure it was 2 hour time. And let me know in a comment, what are you guys struggling with currently when it comes to touch up or microblading or shading. And all your requests, I always read them, I always keep in mind, and that's why I'm creating Mondays Learn with Beauty Slash, actually based on your request. Feel free to text me on Instagram or under this YouTube videos, and I will see you next Monday on Mondays Learn with Beauty Slash.